The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
Come one, come all, bring all your wrestling knowledge and all your wrestling friends to this, the Showtime Wrestling Podcast. Yeah, okay, I'm not really great at voices. I am no Hank Azaria, but I sometimes will keep it Brockmire. That's not really a great Brockmire voice either. I just started Season 4 Brockmire. It's in the future. Not really sure how I feel about that, but it's been a pretty good series. But I don't even know what I'm talking about with Brockmire. I just know that you're here to listen to Anthony Robles. My name is Jason Bryant. Welcome back again to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. I believe we're ticking along at episode 616 as we recorded the interview with Anthony about a couple days ago. We are into September. Oh my goodness, that's the 9. We are in month number 9 of this year of 2020 when... Oh, my goodness. It's been nuts. But there was some wrestling to talk about. There's also some wrestling drama to talk about. I'll be pretty brief in terms of the drama, but I actually got to announce some wrestling this weekend. We actually were treated to some of the best wrestlers in the state of Minnesota at a place called the Shop Performance Training Center, which is in Minnetonka. And no, you do not need to cleanse yourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka because I'm not really that big of a Prince fan, which might be sacrilege once you get a Minnesota zip code. But the event called Minnesota's Number One was an absolute blast. We were outside. It was a little warm, but we started at 4 o'clock out there. I got brought into this via the Al and Josh Show podcast run by Al Venz and Josh Raymond. You might hear the name Venz. Yes, that is Taylor Venz's dad, the All-American from Nebraska. Josh Raymond's got a kid wrestling at Simley, which is a pretty good program here in Minnesota. Greg Kirkvliet's from Simley, so you've probably heard of the program. Really solid podcast, too. A fun show about two dads talking wrestling about various levels. And them with Mark Christensen and a host of others at the Shop in Minnetonka put together a superstar battle of a lot of state champions. There were 17 matches on the card, 2 women's freestyle bouts. We had 15 head-to-heads with boys high school folk style or men's folk, whatever. They're still mostly minors. So they are, high school boys wrestling. And of those 15 matches, we had 9 bouts with state champ versus state champ. And this is a 3-class state, which some people here in Minnesota think is too many. And I even made the announcement over the PA, throwing some shade at my home state of Virginia. At least it's not 7. But it was, we saw some really solid wrestlers. Derek Cardinal, for example, is one I came away with very impressed with. I actually had to text Damian Hahn after the match and go, I like this Cardinal kid. He had a pretty solid win. We saw Jory Volk wrestle in a really solid battle against Christian Noble. It was an absolute blast. Just to be outside, just to be watching wrestling. Beautiful day. And I'm sitting there by the pairers table or the scorekeeping table. I'm sitting next to Carrie Learn, who is a longtime pairing official scorekeeper, just basically jack of all trades with Minnesota USA Wrestling. I've been working these events for a number of years, and I was just giddy with the excitement, talking about how much fun it was to be sitting there watching wrestling. And yes, I was there to do a job. I was there, and I want to thank Ashkan Morvari for, being able to take care of the financial situation that I do this as a professional. I'm not free, but they made it happen in quick work. And it was just something that, I was just glad to be a part of. And, it wasn't about the money for me by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that we had wrestling out there, and it was high quality wrestling, and it was a great environment. I mean, Al and Josh did the broadcast on Track Wrestling. I did the PA. Got a chance to really just get back into the groove. It's the first wrestling event I have announced, like actually in person, because the virtual NCAAs don't count. Cardinals, clear the mat, clear the feeder. That's just goofy stuff me and Brian Hazard did on Instagram and on Twitter. But it was just so nice to be around wrestling and wrestling people again, because Al and Josh and the crew got everything situated. Dennis and Eric at Track Wrestling were a great market, of course, with the shop. And, went in there. It was an outdoor event. I sold my PA system when I left Pennsylvania 12 years ago. So I'm sitting there going, well, how am I going to do this? So I got my outdoor, my wireless mic, because a lot of places you're handed a wireless mic. Well, with COVID going around, I'm not just going to grab a microphone that somebody gave me, so I actually had to pick up a Shure wireless microphone, one I haven't had in a while because I like to be wired. Hazard does a lot of the mobile stuff, but so I'm sitting there free to float around, have the Hall of Fame mask that was provided me by Jack Carnifex and the crew there. So making sure that the social distancing and such was taken care of. But just, man, it's just so good to be around wrestling. It was so good. Had a chance to have a beverage afterwards with Richard Emmel from Track Wrestling. We were actually walking through. He's wearing a Nike shirt that had wrestling on it from Cleveland, and the beer tender, I guess in this case, because there's no bartender at LTD Brewing in Hopkins. Of course, Richard and I both like the craft beers, so we want to find a tap room. We'll find a tap room, and we found a tap room. Well, the guy's sitting there going, yeah, I found myself going down that Jordan Burroughs rabbit hole. So next thing you know, he's over there talking to us, and Richard's talking to him about sitting next to Sidikov. We won't get into Sidikov drama on the way back from Kazakhstan last year at the World Championships. And it was just cool it's cool to talk wrestling. It's cool to be around wrestling. And it was just so refreshing that this event went great. A couple hundred, maybe 125 people in their lawn chairs, away from the mat. They cleaned the mat between every single bout. I got a chance to throw in some really bad dad jokes out there as the PA announcer. I was really, really disappointed in the Minnesota fans. Here's why. Because I worked on this little snippet of getting it in. And sometimes when you work a joke into something, it's going to fall flat. But Tyler Wells is a Minnesota State champion. He was a schoolboy world champ. Well, the World Combat Games, I don't think they actually call it schoolboy world or U15 or 15U, whatever the age group is. He won a world title in that age group, and he's from Princeton, which is where my wife is from. But it is also where former professional wrestling champion Bob Backlund is from. Bob Backlund was a national champion at North Dakota State and also a junior college All-American at Waldorf. So Bob Backlund had legit wrestling chops and then went into professional wrestling. So I'm sitting there and I dropped this out and it's like, Wells is the second such world champion. The other being great WWF champion Bob Backlund. And nobody got it. Minnesota is a state that really does respect its professional wrestling culture because Vern Gagne was such a big deal in giving wrestlers from the University of Minnesota, from North Dakota State, from all these other places, that type of opportunity to compete. And, it was a business, and you can hear all these podcasts about what the business of professional wrestling was like back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And now we've seen the curtain peeled back enough. But I was really kind of bummed that the Bob Backlund joke did not resonate. But that was no shortage of bad dad jokes there, because when you got a dual meet in such a laid-back environment, yes, there's professionalism, but, you slide some little comedic observations in there. I mean, it's part of, I don't want to say it's a shtick. It's just part of my personality that I bring to the microphone. So again, thank you to everybody involved that just had the idea to ask me, because absolutely. I mean, it was a long day. I did a lot of prep work on it. I just really enjoyed being around it. Now, second thing, moving on before we get to Anthony Robles, there has been a lot. I guess the Stalemate Show, if you're unfamiliar with it, at stalemateshow.com. That's a free plug for them. They did not pay me for this, but this guy, Zach, has been doing a lot of he's got a cool studio, by the way, little videos of looking at the Twitter interactions. And, wrestling Twitter, we are lunatics sometimes. You know it. I know it. We all know it. We can all be a bit chippy, and all of a sudden we get into some debate about freestyle versus folk style, and then we get into the drama that surrounded Flo with their card with Chimizo and no women, and then not a whole lot was said about that aspect with Wrestling Underground, which was a cool event, but again would have liked to have seen some women on the card. They insist they tried, and I say they, meaning Chael Sonnen, who was behind this, and his Submission Underground stuff. It was a quick card, 6 matches, but the real drama has been coming with the Flo Wrestling or Flo Sports versus Willie Saylor, a.k.a. Willie Smalls, a.k.a. The greatest emoji in emoji. I don't know if I can say that, because that's been a contentious point amongst the hearing that's gone on. So the way I understand it is Flo Sports filed a emergency hearing for Willie violating the terms of the temporary injunction, which is in turn was violating his non-compete. So you got a lot of minutia about this whole situation. And then, you know, if you don't know, Martin Floriani, the founder of Flo Sports and Flo Wrestling, was basically booted out of the company in terms of, you know, he owned some shares in the company, clearly, but you know, as a guy that was kind of like the figurehead, the CEO, he was punted. His brother Mark is still involved in Flo Sports, so this has been a real ugly family battle. And again, I've done really, I've tried to stay away from commenting on this portion of it because I do work with Flo Sports in their events at Final X. I also, you know, I get along great with most of the guys there. I mean, there's some people I have differences of opinion with at Flo Wrestling. That's no big deal. It's going to happen. But, you know, and you look on the other side is I also have a channel on ROKFIN. Now, everybody knows me and Martin have always well, not always. We've kind of had a decent relationship recently, but when they broke out on the scene, our relationship was contentious. And, you know, we had different ways of doing things that we didn't see eye to eye on. And sometimes that led to some pretty public blow-ups and such. So, you know, there's a lot of history here. I'm just sitting here looking at this as an observer because, again, I do have a ROKFIN channel. Willie has a ROKFIN channel. Martin started ROKFIN after his one-year non-compete with Flo Sports, the way I understand it. And what we're seeing now is lawyers adjudicating what is and judges in the courts in a situation that is a family squabble that has gone into the business world. And it has involved Willie. It's involved several other people in the sport of wrestling, some of which are former Flo employees. And I spent about 7 hours of my life, maybe 8 hours of my life, watching these live streams, which is funny enough. After the first one that went private, I think after 4 or 5 hours, and I couldn't go back and watch any of it. But when I made sure, I was like, all right, well, that one's down. I'm going to go sit here and watch this one as soon as it happens. So, and it's funny to see that the arguments to take the stream down. Well, how are we as a wrestling community? I'm going to take this wrangle here. How are we as a wrestling community supposed to know about this type of information? You know, a lot of us aren't going to try to file FOIAs and get court documents that are, yes, while they are publicly accessible, transcripts and such, but we don't know how to do that. And the live stream was a great way for us to really understand what's been going on for the last year. You know, some people don't like Willie. I get it. You know, his persona on Twitter really rubbed people the wrong way. Some people don't like Flo and the way they treated women. Some people think that they're a monopoly. I don't care about any of that. What I'm pointing out here is the live stream was really interesting because we all could watch what was going on. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't rewatch what's going on. So we're just having to use what we're talking about on Twitter, what some people are doing in terms of like the tea, if you will, as Zach is mentioning from Stalemates. But the whole thing it's painful to watch, man. It's just been painful to watch. At some point, you're screaming at the screen. No matter. I mean, there's been situations where I'm watching this thing and I'm yelling at my computer, going, "That's not how this works. That's not right." And I'll be quite honest, that's on both sides of the argument. I mean, there are times I'm sitting there yelling at the lawyer from Flo. There's times I'm sitting there yelling at the lawyer from Willie's side of things. It was just so mind-numbingly painful. And I think the biggest issue I took was basically some of the argument over semantics, okay? What does future events mean? I will say this one thing about this topic, and that is the only thing I'm going to say about it moving forward. Future events, and the way the word, air quotes, carve-outs are described here. If I'm a journalist and I've got a non-compete, and there's something with a temporary injunction that says, okay, you can only talk about future events, I read that as from that point of the injunction forward, not meaning I can only do previews. I'm saying, okay, everything from here on out I can talk about. I can't go back and talk about things that have already happened. So as a journalist, as somebody who has been in the news industry since I was 15 years old, do the math, that's 26 years. Nowhere in my right mind would I read future events, meaning only previews for things that are upcoming. That is ridiculous. That's a stupid argument to make in my personal and professional opinion. Now, last thing I want to do is get roped in for a tweet or a podcast. So I'm going to end it right there. But some of this stuff is so freaking stupid. The fact people are paying lawyers money to argue this, is some of the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. That being said, I hope for the wrestling community's sake, we get this resolved, because Flow Sports and Flow Wrestling is a valuable asset to the wrestling community. Wheelie Sailor, love him or hate him, is a valuable asset to the wrestling community. That's the simple thing. If this thing keeps going, we all will lose. Yes, I'm captivated by the drama of it all, but this is absolutely stupid. That's all I got. Now, moving forward, Anthony Robles is our guest, but again, before we get there, and this is something you tend to listen to quite frequently, this show, I appreciate it. Thank you. If you like the network, you like these shows, you like the daily wrestling newsletter you can get for free at mattalkonline.com/news. If you like great guests, if you like the largest on-demand audio wrestling network in the world, more content for your perfectly long drives because nobody's flying anywhere, you can help this network out. You can help the sport out. You can help me out. I'll be quite honest with you. Yeah, it helps me. In a time of pandemic, I worked my first event in 6 months. That's a fun thing. Doesn't exactly cover the 6 months of what goes on to cover the costs of some of these things. But anyway, mattalkonline.com/join the team. That's how you can contribute monthly or now annually. mattalkonline.com/join the team. It'll take you to my Patreon page. Exclusive stuff there, early releases. If you're a patron already, you've already heard this interview with Anthony Robles. It's early releases. It's ad-free shows. All sorts of stuff. Can I say ad-free shows? Advertisement-free podcast listening apparati. I don't even know. I just want to stay away from Conrad Thompson's lawyers. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Enjoy Anthony Robles, and I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for short time. Young up-and-comers in the world of broadcasting. Actually, no, he's been there for quite a while, done a great job with ESPN. 2011 NCAA champion, speaker, author, world record holder, Anthony Robles, man. It's been a while. Welcome back to the show, and hope you've been well.
I'm doing very well, my friend. Thank you for having me on. How have you been?
Fat and happy. I mean, that's the way to be, right? I got my little space. I got my hidden space here that I've talked about on the show for months now that I've got it. And so my wife's getting annoyed at these pennants behind me. I have a bunch of old school pennants from like teams that I grew up around, and then some old Minnesota stuff for her side. I got to balance this Minnesota, like my weird eclectic taste across. But as we were talking about pre-show, no Raiders stuff in here. So my first question to kick off this interview: the Raiders are in Vegas. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, I'm originally from California, so I was sad to see them leave California. But because I'm Arizona's home for me now, it's like a 45-minute flight to Las Vegas for games. And I know my family and I, we usually go to at least one game a year, so it's going to be a lot easier and a lot cheaper for us. I'm really excited about that.
This year it might be a little tougher though, considering we don't know what's going to happen with the NFL.
Yeah, it's nuts. I heard that the Raiders, they're not allowing fans in the stadium, but who knows? Maybe that could change down the road. But it's a shame because it's a brand new stadium too. It's amazing. So hopefully things get cleared up and we can at least go to one game, but we'll see.
A lot of things in your career have been well chronicled. You've written a book, which it's called Unstoppable. You've done this. You've stayed in the spotlight with these pull-up challenges and such, but let's just go back to 2011 in Philadelphia and talk about how much that moment beating Matt McDonough in the NCAA finals changed your life.
Man, that was a dream come true, because I remember getting into wrestling at 14 years old. I remember watching the NCAA championships on ESPN, when they were just playing the finals and just wanting that opportunity one day to be on that mat, to be able to wrestle for a title. So to be able to realize that 9 years later, it was a dream. And I had no idea what was to come afterwards. My focus was just on winning a wrestling title. That was my only goal. And so afterwards, I remember it was literally that night after the championship, we're at dinner together, we're celebrating, and we're getting phone calls from movie companies, a couple of days later from book companies. And it was incredible. I never got into wrestling for that attention. I loved the sport and I wanted to be the best at it. So I really considered these other opportunities and these other things coming up to be a blessing. And I just wanted to do my best to use the platform that I was being given to the best of my abilities and for a positive, in a positive way to impact others, to motivate others. And so that's why I got into motivational speaking. And, I was honored to be able to get into commentating with ESPN and Pac-12 to stick around the sport I love. So it's been an amazing journey, man. I'm just really trying to do the most with what I have, with the opportunities that I have. And I'm trying to give back and motivate and inspire others now.
We've had a couple people on the show talking about recent books. There's going to be more people coming up about books, but explain the process of Unstoppable. And, when a story like yours comes out, there's probably a lot more people pitching you, hey, let me write your book. Let me write your book. And how did you ultimately settle on getting that whole project done?
Yeah, it was an interesting process because there were a lot of publishing companies reaching out. And so, I would sit down with meetings with them and they're just kind of giving me the ideas of how they want to market it and that sort of thing. And then they'd all kind of got me in touch with a couple of ghostwriters. And basically I would just sit down with these ghostwriters and just tell them my story from start to finish. And they'd ask questions, just jot things down. And basically they were just trying to get into my head. And almost, in a way, it kind of felt like a therapy session because, I'm talking about all these things that, my childhood, things that I struggle with, my insecurities, because it was important for me to get my whole story out there. Not just the good stuff, not just the overcoming adversity, but the stuff that I think people can relate to, the struggles, the downtimes, the grind, because that's where ultimately where the success comes from, choosing not to break during those moments. So to have to share that with someone I didn't really know, it was tough. But it was just really cool because they would go back and just kind of write a sample chapter and really try to get it in my voice. And I think total, I worked with 9 different ghostwriters at the beginning. And then, once I met up with Austin Murphy, though, who ended up writing my book, he was just amazing. He had a background in sports and really was able to get into my head. I felt comfortable sharing with him. And it was just an amazing process. And then just to finally get the Unstoppable book, the first version in the mail and just say, man, this is my life story right here. It was incredible. It was something that really, it brought chills to me because, I never would have dreamed I would have had that opportunity. Before wrestling, during wrestling. And so it was just an honor. And I really hope that, by people reading that book, like I said, they will get motivated, because what I like to say is we all wrestle with our own challenges. And I wanted to put all the challenges that I faced in that book and just show people that, hey, no matter what you're facing, you can overcome that. And so it was just a blessing and an honor to have that opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
A friend of mine, Nick Frost, introduced me to one of your friends, Chris Friji, who's now coaching college wrestling in West Virginia. He's had a couple stops on the coaching ring. One thing I was reading a book on Unstoppable, and you mentioned Chris a lot. What's that relationship like today?
Oh yeah, Chris. For those who don't know, Chris was he's still like my brother. We talk constantly, and I know he's out there coaching now, so we still keep in touch. We do wrestling camps together in the summertime. But I owe a lot of my success in wrestling to Chris. Because, we wrestled at the same high school, Mesa High. He was about 2 years older than me. When I started as a freshman, I finished last place, but I remember that summer just every single day going into the wrestling room and trying to train with the varsity guys. And Chris was by far the best guy in the room. He was the captain, the state champ, all that stuff. And I just remember him really just taking me under his wing. And so, he was kind of watching me wrestle. And, when I would struggle, he'd give me tips or he'd wrestle with me. And as I got better, he would wrestle with me every single day and basically kick my butt. But, that's what I needed to get to the next level. And just an awesome guy. I remember we would travel around. He had a Nissan Xterra. So in the summertime, we would travel around Arizona just to the local high schools who had open mats. And we would just wrestle with the guys. Didn't matter what they were ranked. It didn't matter what school they were, if they were rivals or whatever. He just showed me that, if you want to be the best, you got to wrestle with the best. You got to train with the best. And so he got me to step outside of that comfort zone. And that's how I ended up meeting guys like Henry Cejudo, who at the time he was training at Maryville High School. So we would drive out there to Maryville and wrestle with Henry, and he'd come out to Mesa a couple of days later and wrestle. We'd barbecue, and those were some fun summers, man. Just driving around, just talking wrestling, watching wrestling videos, like the Hawkeyes this season. Chris was my big brother and just really just my mentor in wrestling, just one of my best friends, and it was really cool because like I said, I owe a lot of my success to him. And that's why I tell a lot of kids growing up now is like, hey, you want to reach your goals, but make sure you're giving back. I wouldn't be here today without Chris being willing to give back and help someone else out. So it was cool.
I'm curious about this Henry Cejudo thing, because he's also written a book. But at the time, did you know that he was going to go off and do great things?
We had no idea how high he would go, but we knew Henry was destined for great things. Henry, his older brother Angel was a couple times state champion. I think Henry at that time had won, 1 or 2 in Arizona already. And it was like right before he went off to train at the Olympic Training Center. And Henry was just a natural athlete. He was just an all-star wrestler. Everybody knows that. So we knew he was destined for great things. And so, that's crazy. Who has that opportunity to train with a future Olympian, a future gold medalist, a UFC champ in high school? And so, I mean, just having guys like that, it's like I'm training with a lion, basically almost every other day. So it was really neat, and that just kind of helped boost my confidence up just to see Henry, get to these next levels as I'm going through my career. It's like, man, I train with guys like this, like I should be at that level too. So it helped me to set high expectations for myself, knowing that, I'm scrapping with these guys in the restroom every single day. I should be able to scrap with anybody out there on the mat on any given day.
Well, another cool thing that's been talked about in the press is your life story, and the name Dwayne Johnson kept getting thrown around the rock. Where is that project right now? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. And I mean, this movie process, it's been a long time in the works. I did have opportunities literally like the night of the national championship. I was getting phone calls and voicemails from movie companies. But just going through that process, Hollywood's a different world. And just talking to some people, getting some advice, I learned that, I needed to be careful with who I signed with and the rights I gave away, because basically in a lot of cases, you sign a contract, they basically can take your life story and change it however they want. They can, call it Hollywoodize it or whatever. And it was important for me to maintain the integrity of the story, my background, my family. And so we took a long time coming up with the script first. And then, we started kind of shopping that around, a story that I was proud to have told, and my family. And I mean, recently, it was maybe a year ago now, time flies. Dwayne Johnson, it came across his desk and he was just super excited about it. And so he signed on to be the producer of the film, $7 Productions as well. And so, man, once I heard that news, it was just whole nother level. I was just in a dream world. And I mean, to see what he's accomplished, what Dwayne Johnson has done in his life, the obstacles he's overcome to do such amazing things, it was inspiring. So he's someone that I've always looked up to. So to have him tell my story on the big screen, it's going to be an honor. I know right now with COVID, things have been put on hold. I'm not really sure when we're going to start filming. I know before all this had happened, we were planning on starting in the summertime. So I'm just kind of on hold right now. I'm waiting, just trying to be patient. I know they want me to do a lot of the wrestling scenes. So, I've been training, man. I'm keeping my weight trim and getting ready for when I got to drop back down to 125. So just waiting and being patient right now. But I can't wait for that to finally be out there in theaters and to have Dwayne Johnson tell it. I mean, it's going to be incredible.
Were you much of a pro wrestling fan at all?
Growing up, I was. I watched a little bit. I remember like guys like Lex Luthor and Bret Hart and stuff like that. So my cousins and I, we'd roll around the wrestling room a bit. Once I got into I want to say like junior high, I was more into like MMA type stuff, and then once I got into wrestling, man, it was just all wrestling for me, so, as a kid, I was definitely into that stuff. Trying to hit my cousins with chairs.
I get a soft spot for the old 80s and 90s WCW, NWA stuff. It's nuts. And then, of course, I got back into it right when The Rock was the people's elbow and the people's eyebrow. And I don't know, man, it's the Rocky Maivia era didn't quite resonate with me, but The Rock definitely did. So he is the biggest action star in the world right now. And he's got, and your project's on his desk. That's gotta be crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Just to think about that, like you said, he's one of the biggest guys in Hollywood right now. And, I'm honored and blessed. And from what I hear, everyone who's worked with him said he's just amazing, an amazing guy, just a hard worker. And I just can't wait for that opportunity to finally meet him and be able to work on this film with him and, have this story be told on a whole nother level, because, I think he shares my passion and, and my main motivation behind telling the story, which is, to help others and motivate them and show them that we can overcome any obstacle we wrestle with in life. And also, I definitely want to do the best job that I can to promote wrestling, our wrestling, because the sport has given me so much. I love it so much. It's done wonders for my self-confidence, just my goal setting, all these things, all these life lessons that it's taught me. I want people to be able to see that on the big screen. I want to help grow wrestling. And for those who might not normally be exposed to wrestling, to be able to see it in this light that we all see it, like all these lessons that it teaches you and the way it can change people's lives, men and women.
So I want to get to the pull-up challenge. Actually, before I get to the pull-ups, because I want to know how much you're actually lifting here, what are you walking around at weight-wise right now if you say you've got to get back down to 125?
Well, right now I'm in the low 140 range. I'm like 141, 142. The reason for that is because I'm trying to bulk up for one or two more pull-up challenges. I'm going for a 100-pound record, hopefully soon. What
does that mean? What's a 100-pound record mean?
Well, this one, it's most pull-ups in a minute with 100 pounds on my back. So that one's, I'm trying to bulk up for that one, not get too big, but I'm putting on some muscle. And then one more, I'm still kind of, I'm wrapping my brain around it. And this will definitely be the last one if I go for it, which more than likely I will be going for it. It's most pull-ups in 24 hours. And that record, I think it's 7,600 reps I would have to beat. So, I'm working on some things, man. I'm always trying to challenge myself mentally and physically to get better. So right now I'd say right around 140, low 140s. Before COVID happened, I was weighing in at 127 because I was getting ready for filming. So I was lean and trim. I was right there at wrestling weight. So when they said everything got put on hold, I'm like, okay, well, I'm bulking back up. So I'm happy right now at 140. It's a nice little weight for me.
And of course, the logical question is of course, how much do you think you'd weigh if you had the leg?
I always get that question. And I mean, from what the doctors told my mom, they said
not what wrestling fans, what the doctors say. Forget what the wrestling fans say. They think you'd be a 74 pounder.
The experts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from what they told my mom, they said basically it would be about a pound for every year I'm alive was what my leg would weigh. And then they said you also have to factor in proportionally my body would be different because I'm always on crutches. I'm lifting my upper body, right? I'm 24/7. I'm doing dips all the time. So yeah, my upper body's big, the muscle weighs more than fat. So proportionally up here would be kind of shrunken down when my leg would be put into place. So they said it's about a pound for every year I'm alive. So, give or take right now, who knows?
Yeah, well, you seem like a fit guy anyway. That would never have been a problem to start with, given your personality. Now, when we get to the pull-up record, explain what made you want to attempt this, because I loathe pull-ups. Obviously, I'm a lot heavier than you are, but it seems like you're just, it's misery. Because if I'm doing the math, thankfully the calculator did this, to do that 24-hour record, you'd have to do about 316 and change in a 24-hour, like every hour. That's ridiculous. So what possesses you to want to do this?
Man, honestly, I was bored after wrestling.
You were bored. I can think of a lot different things to do if you're bored. Pull-ups is not one of them.
Well, see, when I got in wrestling, I mean, there's no other sport harder than wrestling, in my opinion. I mean, just the physical demands, the mental demands of the sport. And so just to be able to do that, to go through that for 9 years, to reach the top, win my national title, and then basically just to kind of cut cold turkey from that. Yeah, I was still lifting, I was still working out every day for 45 minutes to an hour, but just to cut off from that intensity, of just working for something like that. It was hard for me. And I think a lot of athletes can relate to that, like once they set this goal and they reach it, it's like, well, what do I do with myself now? And so I was missing that aspect of my life to where I was really pushing myself physically to reach this high level, to push myself outside of that comfort zone. And so the way the pull-ups came about, one of my friends in the gym, he does marathons. And so, we're always in there together. He's doing his type of workout, I'm doing mine. And so we would kind of cross challenge each other with different things, so he'd try to challenge me to who can do a longer plank in the sauna. And I'd do, okay, who can do more push-ups in the sauna, things like that, And so one day he just, he tagged me on a Facebook video, and it was at that time, the current Guinness World Record holder for pull-ups. And I've always liked pull-ups, since high school. And he tagged me in the video and he put a question mark. And I was like, man, I think this would be a fun challenge to go after. The most pull-ups in a minute, just my body weight. And so I trained for that for about a year. And I ended up breaking that, which was a huge honor. But after that, I was like, what's the next one? And I saw there was a couple other pull-up records with weight, and then the 24-hour record. And I just like challenging myself. I like waking up every day, having a goal and just having a plan for, okay, how am I going to reach that goal today? How can I be a little bit more, how can I progress? How can I be efficient with my time? And I just like being structured like that. Just always challenging myself to get better, to grow, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically. But I was lacking in that physical area. So these pull-ups, they've been my focus. They've given me something to chase after, to push, and just to grind every day for. So it's been tough, especially with COVID. I'm dealing with actually this little shoulder injury right now because of all the pull-ups I am doing. But at the same time, it's fulfilling in a way. So I've really been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun for me.
There was a lot of stories about how you would go to the sprints when you were in college and do on your crutches. Have you ever actually considered trying to do a marathon, or how difficult would that be with the crutch situation?
I've thought about it. And, I've also thought about possibly one day doing a marathon on my prosthetic leg, which it's going to take me a while because I'm still getting used to it. I know on my crutches, the fastest mile I've ever ran was 8 minutes. When I was in college, I would run, 3 to 6 miles per week on the crutches. So I think I could do I think I could do a marathon if I trained for it. But really right now, my main focus is the pull-ups. And one of the things I am worried about with doing a marathon on my crutches is the wear and tear that it'll have on my shoulders, because, I'm not like everybody else, right, where it's on your lower body, it's all up here. So that's kind of one thing I am hesitant about. But, I think one day I would love to be able to walk or at least try to walk or run in a marathon with my prosthetic leg. So who knows, that might be the next goal after my pull-up challenges.
Yeah, that was one of the things you had talked about in the book, and of course your life has talked about, is how you hated the prosthetic when you were a kid. How has that kind of re-entered your life? And I guess explain how you use the prosthetic leg today, I guess, in your everyday life.
Yeah, so I remember when I was a kid, it was just a big, heavy piece of wood. And because I'm missing my leg above the knee, I'm missing my leg all the way up to my hip. So the higher, I guess, amputation, whatever you want to call it, the higher you are that you're missing your leg, the more of the socket you have to have, the higher the socket has to be to wrap around your body to control the prosthetic. So this socket that I have to wear, it basically goes all the way up underneath my pecs. And so back then, with it being so heavy, it was really uncomfortable to wear. It just felt like an anchor. I didn't like it. So I elected to use crutches. But now the technology is just incredible. For the prosthetic leg, the lower part itself, they're typing buttons in on a laptop and it's moving itself. They can change the angle of it. I barely kind of move my hip and it'll kind of finish the motion for me. So it's incredible to use. The technology is amazing. It still is a challenge because, I am missing my leg pretty high up. So I do have to use these muscles on my right side of my body that I'm not really used to using, that I haven't been accustomed to. So my challenge is trying to strengthen those muscles, get used to that, get comfortable with it. And also, just find a socket that's comfortable to wear for long time periods, because the one I have now, I'd say after an hour, it starts kind of, it irritates my skin. It bruises me, it can even cut me. So that's a challenge I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to find the technology out there that can really help me with that problem. But it's just been incredible. And, I'm just very grateful because that opportunity to get this new prosthetic came up right around, I'd say 2012, 2013, after I graduated. A company by the name of Wiggle Your Toes. It's a charity. They help individuals get prosthetic legs because they can be expensive. Prosthetic limbs, they're really expensive, and a lot of times insurance don't cover it. So they helped me to get my prosthetic. And there was a local doctor out here in Arizona, Ray Fikes, who stepped up to help kind of get me all set up. So I've been in the process of walking with it long term. Throughout the day, I don't use it a ton because I do get around quicker with my crutches. It's just easier for me. But long term, I want to be able to, spend a good deal amount of my time on this prosthetic leg. So that is a goal down the road that I'm working towards.
Yeah. And is that something that you eventually want to get to, where you can not have to worry about bringing your crutches anywhere? The crutches have been part of your life since you were a child. So I guess, is there that reliance on them that maybe is going away as a result of having a more functional prosthetic leg?
I think one day I would like to, I don't know, because for me, the crutches, I think they'll always be a part of me, because I've been on them for so long, and I'm really comfortable with them. Getting on and off planes, traveling as much as I do, it's so much easier and quicker with the crutches. It's more comfortable. And then, I don't know, I just feel like even with the technology now, when I put that prosthetic on, I just feel like I'm limited. It's like when I have my crutches, I put them down. It's like, I'm ready to wrestle. Right. But when I have this prosthetic on, it just kind of feels like an anchor in still a lot of ways. So I think down the road, I want to be able to use the prosthetic more, but I'll never completely give up using my crutches. It's just always been a part of me. It's who I am. And, when I go out there and speak, I like people to see me for who I am, and it's not like prosthetic is going to be hiding that, but, this is me in my true form, on the prosthetic on the crutches. And, I'm still aware that, when I go out and walk around in public, people who don't know me, they still stare, they still kind of are curious, even kids and all that. So, but, for me, I'm very comfortable with that now. And that's one of the things that I like to share with kids, especially when I go to speak to high schools and, junior highs and things like that, is being comfortable with who they are, of being proud of being unique. And so for them to see me And, this in my purest form, just plain and simple, this is who I am. I don't have a prosthetic. This is my missing leg. This is something that people could see as an insecurity, but I'm secure in it. I'm proud of it. I feel like that really plays to my message as well. And so I want people to be able to see that and be able to physically see that in front of them as well.
Where people physically see you is on television with ESPN and with your motivational speaking. Getting to the ESPN side of things first, you had the opportunity to work with Amin, who has become like the guy. I mean, when it comes to sports broadcasters in this country right now, if he's not one, he's 1A. And he had an opportunity to call the NCAA Wrestling Championships, and you got a chance to work with him and Tim Johnson, of course. What's it like to see Adam's career kind of take off? Kind of having that, okay, I got a real national start with these big events with wrestling. He'd been great for years, but we were introduced to him at the Nationals, and now to follow his career, he's been on the show just to see what he's doing now. He gets to call it'd be like you doing play-by-play for the Raiders. He gets the Bulls now. I mean, it's got to be really cool.
Man, I'm so happy for Adam, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I mean, just super genuine. And I remember, when I came in, I was working with Adam for my first time. I hadn't really done commentating before, so I was really nervous. But Adam and Tim really just kind of stepped up, and they're giving me tips, and they're super nice and friendly about it, and just helped me to improve. But I mean, Adam, he's such a hard worker, and just to see his hard work pay off, to be able to see him realize his dream and do what he loves. I'm extremely happy for him, and I'm just cheering him on. I love turning on the TV and hearing his voice. We'll be out at restaurants, and they're turning on games, and I'm like, that's Adam right there. Listen in, and I'll text him real quick, say, hey man, you're sounding awesome. You're sounding really good. And but that just goes to show you, just the hard work. Hard work does pay off. And I know Adam. I mean, he's one of the hardest working guys I know. I learned so much from him, just his work ethic, and I'm just very happy for him, and I can't wait to see him continue to grow, because he will continue to grow. This isn't the final destination for him. He's going to keep getting better and better, and more opportunities are going to present themselves to him. And I know he's going to take full advantage of that. So super cool guy, great to work with. And I really like working with Mike, but I love Adam. I really missed him when he took off and went for other things, but very proud of him.
Yeah. You talk about Mike being Mike Cousins, who is kind of taken over that role. And again, the same thing. I'm sitting there in the airport and I hear him like, is that Cousins on the call? Like, I think it was the FCS championship game or something like, or I know that he proposed at a Syracuse basketball game, and I'm like, hey, and I'll do the same thing. I'll text him when I see him on TV, even though I'm not following a whole lot of college. Well, nobody's following a lot of college basketball these days, but when we look at the opportunity to work with the network, I mean, ESPN, we got it once a year. You win, you're a highlight on repeat. So ESPN viewers know you. And how have you learned from guys like Mike and Adam, who are pros at broadcasting, and then work that in with a guy like Tim Johnson, who's been a pro at broadcasting, but also has that wrestling coaching background and that wrestling mindset, whereas the other two are working on the broadcast side of things, like, let's set this up for the viewer. Tim, and your role is to explain to the viewer the wrestling side of it. What's it been like to get the input from Tim?
It's been so awesome. I mean, it's a dream team, really, working with Tim, working with Mike, because I'm getting both sides of it. Like, I'm getting just that professional commentating side of Mike, and then also Tim has it as well. But Tim's like an encyclopedia for wrestling. I mean, that guy, he knows so much, the history, wrestlers. It's really inspiring to me. And I mean, it's like, I'm trying to get to that level, and these are guys that I look up to. I aspire to be like. I'm learning so much from every single time I have the opportunity to commentate alongside them. And, it's tough too, because, when we only really get together for the NCAA tournament, that's, of course, we're all doing our own commentating separately during the year, but the NCAA tournament is the one time that we all get together, and it's only for that 1 week. So, we're basically, we get put together and we're hitting the ground running. We're trying to get that flow off of each other and, pick off and kind of hold back and let some other people get in. And so it's been a process, but it's just been a great teamwork. I feel like we have a good chemistry there. And again, both those guys, I'm just learning so much from every single time. And I'm just trying to step my game up every single time, because, I can tell both of them, they love the sport. They want to do the best to help promote the sport. And I'm right there with them, and we're just trying to do the best that we can to keep wrestling growing, doing whatever we can to do that. And it's just a shame that, this year we didn't have the opportunity to be out there in Minnesota at that US Bank Stadium, because I know we were really looking forward to that. It was going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. As far as what were the preliminary conversations you guys were having with how to cover, or ESPN, the guys in the truck, guys like John Solo, Jerry Daniels, all those guys that are involved in this process. I mean, this was going to be a new monster. It's 15 minutes for me. I was like, what the heck's this going to be? I'm ultimately disappointed we didn't get 40,000. But what were like the preliminary conversations like on how you guys were going to handle this?
Yeah, it was interesting, man. They're trying to figure out like, okay, camera setup, and I mean, just simple things like the run out, right? Like normal arena size.
It's like a 50-yard dash, man.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, well, where are we going to have these guys run out? Like the full tunnel to the center of the mat. That's going to be a workout in itself. These guys.
I'd be calling injury time halfway up. I mean, I'd be like, hey, is that good? A little Jersey tornado as I run up the steps.
Yeah, it was crazy. We were talking about stuff like that, trying to figure every single thing out. And I mean, just working with all those guys behind the scenes, ESPN, that crew, they're very passionate about growing wrestling as well. And that's awesome to see. These guys, they have all these other sports that they work on throughout the year, but, come wrestling, they're super excited about it. They're charged up. They're asking, how can we do this sport justice? How can we grow it? How can we make it more exciting for the fans? How can we do better for the wrestlers? And so, there's a lot of thought that was going into that, and just making sure, the camera angles were right for viewers, and making sure the mat setup was good, and things like the run out, all these little things. They're adding on additional wrestling coverage. And so, it was going to be a really exciting year. There was a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces this year. But we were really charged up for it. So we were really bummed, once things, took a turn, and they announced that wrestling wasn't going to happen. And I especially feel bad for the athletes. I couldn't imagine being in that position of training and then not getting the opportunity to compete at the D1 level at the national tournament. But, hopefully things get cleared up, and next year we'll be back at it, because, this would have been an awesome year for wrestling. And I know ESPN was really excited about it. And they're going to do a lot to promote the sport and do it justice this year at the tournament.
I'm just picturing Gable Steveson running out with like a Gopher football helmet or a Vikings helmet or something for the finals. I'm just picturing all the things that could have happened now. And, there could have been some personality on display here. I mean, you have a whole lot of room for it. But as we talk about that college season, opportunities to see what your alma mater is doing right now. I mean, Zeke Jones has come in, since your graduation. Lee Pritz has been a holdover in that era. And to see the win over Penn State, to see the program go from, it was cut. I mean, the program was cut in your tenure. And then now to see him ranked in the top 5, breaking Penn State's win streak. What's it been like to watch that from an alumni standpoint?
It's been incredible. I'm so proud of Arizona State wrestling. And I just want to thank the school, thank the administration for getting back behind wrestling, because the program was cut. It was after my redshirt freshman season. I remember getting that phone call that the program was cut. It was like in May. After my redshirt freshman year. So to see them come from that to now, where they're competing with the best programs in the country, they're beating teams like Penn State, and to see that, there's a lot of fans in the crowd. There's the support of the local community. The administration is behind them. It's really nice to see that, because there is a long storied history of wrestlers that have come through Arizona State that have gone on to do amazing things at the Olympic level and MMA. So just to see that continue to grow, to see that list of legends that are coming through Arizona State wrestling, to see that list get bigger and bigger, it makes me very proud. And Arizona State, they know that they're not done yet. And just talking to Zeke and talking to the guys in that room, they want to be at the top of the podium. They want to bring back a national title soon, and that's what they're striving for. They're bringing in a lot of talented guys, a lot of talented recruits. And they're showing that Arizona State is the place to be now. That they're one of the elites, and they want to continue to climb up that ladder. And man, I'm just jealous, because I wish I had like another year of eligibility to get out there and help out. It's it's tough, but it's so awesome to see. I mean, just to go and have the opportunity to commentate for the Pac-12 Network and cover a lot of the ASU events here at home. Just to walk in that arena and see all the fans there cheering, to see, the athletic directors there supporting and just cheering for the team. And it's awesome to see that wrestling has the support that it deserves out here in Arizona, because for a while there, especially when I was wrestling at ASU, they didn't really have that. So to see that support, just to see that commitment to get to the next level from everyone, to see that everyone's on board, it's a breath of fresh air. And Arizona State is going to do a lot of big things for a long time here.
You're mentioning the Pac-12 Network, and then your career, what stopped you from becoming a 4-time All-American was a guy from Stanford named Tanner Gardner, and Stanford announced it was cutting 11 sports. You've got the opportunity again to work with the network. You see Stanford quite a bit. You see what Jason Borelli's done. You know they're not 100% fully funded, but they're still putting out good teams and athletes on the podium. What were your initial reactions and your thoughts on Stanford's announcement to cut wrestling at the end of next season?
And I was shocked. What Coach Borelli's been doing there, it's been incredible. He has a lot of tough wrestlers. They had a lot of young, talented guys that were coming up. And so just to see Stanford get cut like that, it was very surprising. But I know, that they're working a game plan and they're putting some stuff together to fight that, to save the wrestling program. And, I think we all need to step up. We all need to be able to support them and in whatever aspect it is, whether it's, fundraising, whatever, because Stanford wrestling, not just for the Pac-12, but just for college wrestling, for Division I wrestling, we need to keep them around. We can't afford to lose any wrestling programs at all, but right now Stanford's a huge one. That would be a huge hit for the Pac-12. And so it's just, it's a shame that we're in this position. A lot of it was due to COVID, but, now it's, now it's all about what are we going to do moving forward, and I know Coach Borelli, he's the guy to lead the charge here. And I think he just needs us all to get behind him and support in any way we can. And I'm following closely on social media, that Save Stanford Wrestling for whatever they need and how we can promote them and support them. So, we all need to step up in this fight and get behind them because we can't lose this program. We can't lose any program. We got to fight and keep wrestling around. We got to be growing the sports, growing these programs.
Now, we look at what you're doing now. You've been speaking since pretty much your NCAA championship. What have you done to get better as a speaker? What are the things you have to do when you decide to do the public speaking, the motivational speaking, to go from really not experienced in it at all to becoming a marquee speaker at some of these like functions and things of that nature?
Well, really, I approached it like I did my wrestling. When I went to a wrestling match, I kind of had my goals, and then I would reflect after the match. Okay, what did I do well? What did I do not so well? Where can I improve? And just kind of make a list out. And that's what I do with every speaking event now. I just kind of reflect on it and just kind of go over in my mind the speech that I gave. Like, okay, this is an area where I felt like there's a lot of impact. People really resonated with this. I want to expand here. This is an area I feel like I can improve, and I just keep building like that. I feel like there's always an opportunity to grow and get better, and that's what I try to do. I challenge myself to grow and get better, and just reflect. Because I don't want to get in that area where I start to be complacent. Where I start getting comfortable and say, okay, I'm good enough here. I always want to improve myself. And I take that very seriously. And, especially now because it's an honor. Every so often I'll get emails or people reach out to me through social media and they say, hey, I heard you speak here. And, it motivated me this way, or they'll share their personal stories with me, of what they're overcoming and what they've been challenged with. And that fires me up, and that reminds me that I'm doing this for them. I need to improve for people like them. I need to reach as many people as I can to help them get to their level of success, whatever that's in, because I wouldn't be where I am today without people who stepped up to motivate me, and so that's what I'm doing now. I want to motivate others to go over their speed bumps. And I feel like I need to do it right. I need to do this justice by giving it my best every single time and not just getting comfortable and not just saying I'm good enough now, because like we know in wrestling, you're never good enough, right? You can always get better and better. And that's the mentality I'm taking in my speaking. I can always get better. There's always room for improvement. I just need to find it, focus on it, and grow on it.
With that, what keeps your story fresh? Because people that hear you might be speaking are like, oh, I'm going to look up this guy. And then they hear your story of adversity. But how do you keep the message fresh for you, but also fresh for people that are hearing it for the first time, but maybe people that have heard you speak multiple times?
Yeah, I'll kind of tweak my message now. I have different, different versions of speeches that I can use now that I've grown in my speaking. And also, I think it's just continuing to challenge myself in different ways that keeps it fresh. Like my pull-up challenges, I talk about those, just overcoming the challenges to break these Guinness World Records, just the discipline. I just touch on things like that. And so it's basically just, I feel like my life story is still going on, right? So, there's always more things that I can add. It didn't just stop at winning a national title. And I think that's one of the things that going back, that's one of the things that I really decided was important to me, to keep challenging myself, to get to new heights, to get to new levels, to climb new mountains. And that's why the pull-ups came about, because I felt like I needed to to practice what I was preaching, right? It's like I couldn't just get settled at a national title. It's like, what's next? And so now that I'm doing pull-up challenges, that's the next thing. Those are the next goals, and that's what I'm sharing with people about. Just the challenges, just overcoming those things, and just pushing yourself. So that's how I keep it fresh. Just pushing myself and adding new things onto to my resume of accomplishments, and just sharing my journey to those accomplishments, those setbacks, and everything in between.
It'd be very easy for you not to be humble because you've done so many things in a selfish sport. A lot of you, it's got to be you. I mean, to be successful in the sport of wrestling, there's a lot of me time. Yes, you have teammates helping you get there and coaches helping you get there and significant others as a support system, but it's, as a sport as a whole, it's very selfish. Now, how do you kind of turn that to be somebody who can inspire people based on your story, whereas it's not about, using all the other things? I mean, what keeps you an inspiration, I guess, is the question.
Well, I think for me, I agree, wrestling in a lot of ways, it can be a selfish sport, but like you said, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of people and time, your teammates, your coaches, and things like that. And so I recognize that I wouldn't be where I am today without their help, with guys like Chris, with my coaches, with certain teammates who train with me every single day. And so just having that in the back of my mind, knowing I didn't get here without them, that's just something that I know going forward. I need to it's my duty now to be the next support for someone else. And that's why I focus my speeches and why I'm so concerned about just tweaking things here and there to impact the audience that I get to speak to. And try to inspire them and try to motivate them in ways. And so I really, when I'm up there on stage, I can feel that energy, that they're giving back to me. When I'm looking at their faces, when I'm staring at their eyes, if there's a certain subject that I'm talking about, that I'm touching on, if I can see certain people, they're really into that, then now that I'm more comfortable, I kind of do a little bit more, just, speak at will. I can kind of change my speech up on the whim, and I'll dive deeper into that subject. I'll go deeper here, and there. And so I think that's what it's all about now for me, is helping others to get to their mountaintop. It's not about me. I don't really care about getting recognized for, being a great speaker or anything like that, which it's an honor. Don't get me wrong. But my main focus is, honestly, it's just helping others to get to their mountaintop. And I think when people can see that and they understand that I'm not coming from a place of arrogance of, hey, look at me, look at all the things I've done. It's more like, hey, I've been where you've been, and I know where you are mentally, but you can overcome these things. I think when they see that it's truly sincere, they open up more, and that's what makes it inspiring. Is that, hey, this guy, it's about me. This guy is trying to reach me. It's not about, hey, I need to clap for him, sort of thing.
A lot of, in putting yourself out there, whether we're talking about your upcoming podcast here in a minute, but to be in the media, to be a speaker, to be front facing, there's a little bit of ego that goes to it, but there's also the vulnerability of your own story. And like you said in the book, there's deep personal things that you discussed in the book that you are letting the world see. How do you balance that ego and that vulnerability in speaking and what you plan on in your upcoming podcast?
That's tough. And I think a big thing that helped me to get a little bit more comfortable being vulnerable was the book. Because, when I speak, there's certain things I'll touch on, but lightly, especially at the beginning. But the book, I put everything out there. I remember just sitting there talking with my writer, Austin Murphy, and there are times where I would actually tear up, just talking about these memories that I of course thought about before, but like really just putting my feelings out there with it. It hurt. I felt like I was just getting ripped open all over again. But just going through that process, it was always in the back of my mind, just knowing that, this is going to help somebody. This is going to motivate somebody out there. And that's the same approach I take on stage now. When I do speak, when I have that platform, this is going to help somebody. And there are certain times where, I will talk about certain ththings on stage, in front of people. And, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just someone out there in the crowd that I'm looking at, that I can really see it, that they're resonating with it. But all of a sudden I just feel the emotions, all over again. I'm fighting back tears, I'm choking up in my throat. But that's always just my main focus is, I'm doing this, I'm sharing this to help the next story out there, because people like success stories and everyone wants success, but I think what people can relate to the most is the pain. People can relate to setbacks because we've all had them. No one has a perfect life. No one has an easy road. And that's what we relate to. If it was just all great and easy and smooth road, everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. But I don't really understand how that is. I want them to see and know and feel, hey, I've felt the pain. I've been there. I've wanted to break. I've wanted to quit, but you can get through that. I've gotten through that. And so that's what inspires me and motivates me to just put it out there is, this is going to touch someone out there. This is going to help somebody, overcome something that they're dealing with right now.
All right, so let's talk about the podcast now. I got it on the screen here. AnthonyRobles.com is where you're going to be able to, one, that's where you can find everything about you anyway. But you're jumping on the podcast train. A lot of people during COVID have said, what are we going to do? We're going to have Zooms. We're going to do conference calls. We're going to do a lot of FaceTime. We're going to start a podcast. So with your personal brand, where does the Unstoppable podcast enter, and what type of show are you going to make? An interview show? What's the format that you're thinking right now?
I'm really excited about the podcast. And I mean, it was just kind of crazy how everything came about because, I remember it was back in March, when COVID really struck and we were on lockdown and everything. Usually from I'd say March all the way through the summer, that's my busiest time for speaking events, for wrestling camps, everything. And I was looking at a really busy schedule. COVID hit and my schedule literally just got wiped out. Movie got put on hold, no speaking events, commentating wrestling camps, everything just done. And so it's like, I just remember sitting there just really, really scared. I was scared. I was nervous because I'm thinking, man, this is how I make my living. And it's just got taken away from me. And honestly, there was a point where I kind of went into, I was upset. I was depressed in a way. I was fearful for the future. And but I just remember thinking about it. It's like, man, I got to remember what unstoppable is. Unstoppable means that you don't face these setbacks. You don't face those times in life where you get knocked down. It's all about how you respond to it. And I'm sitting there, kind of sulking, thinking, I need to practice what I preach. How am I going to be unstoppable right now? How am I going to react to this tough situation? And, so we started kind of brainstorming and, I feel like, with technology now, there's perfect opportunities. It's a perfect platform to still be able to share with people in their own homes. And I said, well, you know what, even though I can't get in front of people, I can't get in front of a crowd, I can still share that message of being unstoppable. I can still motivate people through a podcast. And that's where that came from. And I just got to thank Jack Clark. He's a friend in wrestling who really, he came to, he brought this idea to the table about starting a podcast, about motivating people. And it quickly became a passion for me, and the way this is laid out, it's called the Unstoppable Podcast. We're getting ready to launch it in October now. We're kind of pushing it back just because we want to get everything right. But I mean, the idea behind this podcast is we're going to be talking to people who have overcome challenges in their lives to do incredible things, who have become unstoppable in their own lives. And it's not just athletes. It's not just wrestlers. It's doctors, it's motivational speakers, it's individuals who've just done amazing things. One of the individuals I can share, this person was in a car accident when they were 19 years old. They fell asleep at the wheel. And after that accident, they were paralyzed from the waist down. And it's like, it's something like that. It's like, man, one day you wake up and your life is completely different. Like I couldn't imagine to have to deal with that, but this person went on and to not let this challenge become their excuse. They could have quit, they could have just broken and said that's it, I'm done. But they went on to where they actually broke the Guinness World Record. They walked a marathon, the fastest marathon, while walking in an exoskeleton. This person did it in 33 hours without sleeping. And so it's just incredible stories like that, people who have overcome just these crazy things, different obstacles to do amazing things because, like I said, people relate to that. They relate to struggle, they relate to pain, they relate to going through obstacles. And so that's what I wanted to capture is that, from the purest form of being challenged and how you get through those challenges. How do you react to those certain situations that are tough for you? And so I want people to be able to listen to this and just get that daily motivation, when they're driving to work, when they're driving home after a bad day, when, they're going through certain situations to where, they don't know how they're going to make it to the next day, where they're just frustrated and just overwhelmed. I want them to be able to listen to these people who have been there, who have been in their situation, yet they've gotten out of it and just be able to touch them on that level and help to motivate them. So it's been really cool. We've done a lot of interviews and just getting it ready right now, but it really, honestly, just going through the whole process for me personally, like I said, with the movie being put on hold and everything else, just talking to these individuals every single day, doing these interviews and hearing their stories, it helped me to kind of get out of my dark place that I was kind of in, of just kind of being depressed, of just feeling just down because everything that I had planned in my life, for the next couple of months had just gotten wiped out and I was restarting again. And so just hearing that stuff, it helped me. I mean, it's touched me. It's motivated me. It's fired me up. And so I can't wait for listeners to be able to hear and just get that same feeling, just to get fired up and just to ultimately be unstoppable in their lives as they move forward and as they wrestle with their own challenges. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to have wrestlers on there as well. It's not going to be a wrestling specific podcast, but my goal behind this as well is that I want to promote wrestling and help those people who've never seen wrestling be exposed to it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
I mean, you've probably done hundreds, if not thousands of interviews in your career. How much of that is actually going to help you with the show? I mean, I guess I got to backtrack a little bit. Is it you asking the questions or is it you as a co-host? I mean, that type of format, I guess, is what I'm asking here.
Yeah, it's just going to be me asking the questions. It's one-on-one conversation with an individual. And I think it's definitely going to help that I have done quite a bit of interviews in the past, but it's kind of different now. It's fun because now I'm the one asking the questions. I'm the one going out there and kind of digging and just kind of guiding things. And so I'm really enjoying it. It's a different world for me. But again, I mean, it's just so fascinating to hear these stories, and just to be able to ask questions that I'm really curious about, how'd they do this? And so it's been really, really cool. But yeah, it is a one-on-one podcast interview, me just kind of asking these individuals to take me through their journey of challenges, of the setbacks, of the sacrifice, but then ultimately reaching their mountaintop, whatever that is, whatever that's in, and just the lessons that they learned along the way.
If you were going to interview yourself on your own show and being thrown thousands of questions over your life, is there one question you would ask yourself that you've never been asked in an interview?
Well, the question that I like to close off with, and that I will be closing off with in my podcast is, what does unstoppable mean to you? And that's a question I've never gotten asked from anybody else, but one that I always ask myself mentally. Especially during my hard times, because that just kind of helps me to recenter, and to me, that word unstoppable, it doesn't mean that you don't face the setbacks. It doesn't mean that you don't break, it doesn't mean that you don't want to quit sometimes. It means that you push through that you're willing to grind and able to shine on the other side, that you never give up, no matter how hopeless the situation is. You cling on to that little tiny bit of hope that's still there, that little bit of light, as long as it's there, as long as there's that 1%, that's what you focus on, and you move forward with that 1%. And, that's my question right there. What does unstoppable mean to you?
And you've already answered it, so I can't ask you, what does unstoppable mean to you?
Yeah, man, I love that question. Like I said, it's a daily question for myself. I think it's something everyone should ask themselves, because it's a tough world out there right now. I mean, a lot of craziness, a lot of things going on, and it's impacted people in a lot of different ways. And it's very easy right now to get down, to feel negative and get in those dark places mentally, but you have to ask yourself that question: what does unstoppable mean to you? Because I believe that anybody can be unstoppable. It's just a personal choice. It's just a matter of accepting your situation and deciding that you're going to do the best with that situation, that you're going to find those openings, to be able to progress, to get out of what you think is tough, whatever you're dealing with.
Been talking with Anthony Robles, 2011 NCAA champion, 3-time All-American at Arizona State University, motivational speaker, author, pull-up aficionado, now adding podcast host to his extensively impressive resume. At arobles125, anthonyrobles.com to find the podcast. Anything else you want to throw out there? I mean, we've had a pretty robust discussion here on a Thursday morning, and always great catching up with you. But here's your chance to shout from the soapbox.
Well, Jason, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank the wrestling community out there for their support. And I mean, this has been an amazing journey for me. I'm very blessed, and I'm so grateful for wrestling, for the wrestling community to get behind me, to have this opportunity. And so just thank you guys. And I promise that I'm going to continue to do my best to make you proud, to continue to grow wrestling, to be a positive light out there. And that's what I would like to say as well. Just, we need more positivity out there. I mean, there's a lot of negativity. I'm sure, we jump on Facebook and whatever, social media. It's just, man, it's a crazy world. There's a lot of anger out there. We need more people to step up, to be positive. We got to unite during this time. And, just come together, man. It's sad to see what's going on, but it's going to take regular people to step up to change it, and I think we have to realize that we have the power to ultimately, affect the future, but we got to be willing to step up and do something about it. And, it starts every single one of us, we has to start with you. So let's just step up. Let's just make this world a better place, and let's unite. We've had enough of this anger, this frustration. Let's do better now.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Sportswear. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. Hey, you know what? Did you like the show? You want to hit that subscribe button? MatTalkOnline.com/listen. Various different ways to subscribe to this show on your favorite podcatcher of choice. And if you're already subscribed and you already listen and you love the show and you want to support this show and this network, MatTalkOnline.com/join the team. Become a team member today.